I was raised in a raceless household. My godparents were white. I had more cousins of mixed race than black. I was told by my aunts that we were multi-ethnic. And don't box yourself in. My white uncle made me sit down and watch the movie Rosewood, the story of a city that was burned because a black boy was accused of raping a white woman. Going to college, I remember sitting in orientation and telling my mom, I've never been around this many white people before. I remember riding on the bus in college and pointing out that I'd never seen Asians smoking cigarettes. I roomed with a white girl and 3 black girls who were all aware of our differences, but never let it stop us from enjoying each other. It wasn't as if I was avoiding my blackness. I can remember spending an entire Christmas break in college poring over Black Hollywood stars and reading their stories. I made a point to avoid the typical black stories of slavery in our history and wanted to focus on my ability to leave my mark, not just as a black woman, but as a woman. After college, I moved to the South, where I was made more aware of the stress between people of different races. Up until then it existed, but it was never a topic of conversation. But now it was everywhere. It was like walking back in time, going to Molina, where they get their water from wells, and the closest grocery store is 13 miles away. And most people are related. And all of my husband's cousins or someone close to him could tell you that they'd been referenced as the N-word. Around the time of Obama's first presidential run in that same town, someone was accused of placing a rat head in the plate of a black person. But then we elected a black president. No reason to be alarmed because, I knew we were great. We could do it, right? My son was born into a world where race was minimal, right? Floated along for years with no real realization that race was a dividing factor until the media began to share and really be vocal about police shootings and the prevalence of these happening. I can remember hearing about Trayvon Martin and then the Zimmerman not guilty verdict. I hugged my son and kissed his forehead after the CNN alert to my phone, but quickly retreated back into my bubble, still not fully woke.
He was trying to get away from the cops. He got in that Maserati right there, that white car, and they shot him down dead.
The car was not moving when they began to shoot at him.
So at no point was he making any aggressive moves having the car?
Not at all, not at all. And they immediately opened fire on him.
The day after that shooting was when I realized that my blackness has no protection based on name, education, or background. It was like it took that for it to really set in. It was like in my mind only the Dontres, Erics, Ezels, Dantes, Akais, or Tamirs were killed. But then there was Nicholas, my son, and it all made more sense. The day the news broke, I remember driving my son to school and having a conversation about the world not being fair to everyone, and even how to act when confronted by the police. It was hard. I remember crying. I remember thinking, this isn't fair. I shouldn't have to tell my child these things. I started reading and really listening. I was in a world of disbelief as I realized the conversation as I was having with my son wasn't one that white people were having. At the same time, I was entering UGA as a PhD student, and one of the first courses I took was with Dr. DeBray, where we discussed race in relation to education and the many roles that the federal government has in public education. Again, it wasn't like I wasn't aware, but it was just like I had a light bulb moment. All of a sudden, it made a difference. My blackness was something that others were fighting against, in not so obvious ways, such as the resegregation of schools and teacher education and experience disparities in poor schools. Now I saw that I could be what I could be to my students, children, and community if my Blackness was a platform, and I used it as a springboard of discussion and improvement. Looking back on my experience with my Blackness, it is as if I was walking in a perpetual world of colorblindness. But now I realize how harmful it is on my end. It's interesting because 3 years ago I would not have thought that at all. While movements like Black Lives Matter and its effects have been diminished by many, I believe it is these things that truly open my eyes to see what I have been so blind to before. They shine a light on disparities we have in everyday walks of life that perhaps even we are unaware of. Now, I make it a point to incorporate people of color into my lessons. I want my students to understand that your Blackness is nothing that we should hide behind, but it is important to be proud and share this with the world we live in. Did it have to be as overt as the marches of the civil rights? I made covert changes to my lessons to weave in Black leaders and changers for them to see. For example, this year I was introducing entrepreneurship as we enter Black History Month, which lended itself well to making a timeline of Black entrepreneurs. This enables students to see how far back our excellence reaches, and efforts to dim our light have been in place since incidences such as the Tulsa Black Riot and fire, something I learned about recently. I now find it my duty to buy books for my daughters, such as A is for Activists and the March series for my son, as we are constantly having our influence questioned and undermined on public platforms. There's been no better time to be Black than now, and I want my children to understand and be able to question others who think that it is not a point of pride. Social media has played a very important role in my own realization, and I believe that this is where we as a community can see small swells turn into big waves. And I